Yeah. So yeah, so it's okay.
We didn't meet, but we had a retreat. It's really, it was school related. For 5 years.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't know it was like a 5 notes. I could probably remember.
Last, I've got it. Yeah, it's like
I have another I found these yesterday morning. I put like a garage. I had three. And I was like, oh my goodness, I might someone else told me it was one of those. I was like, don't worry, I have to try them out. Aren't connected. I had a pair yesterday. That's what I found. I understand.
I consider it.
Yes. I have my report here.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
So meaning there's a role.
There is a role.
But not
It's
a.
a Google, NASA's have a great, they have a.
I would take a picture of our video.
They have two, right? Sit on the board, they come to all the meetings. They sit through the whole meeting. They advise the board. They do what
Yeah, and then we used to have a student council homework. Something that I need.
I think it's only one way.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
They're not here.
Yeah, how could they know? Maybe they watch it. They go home.
Nobody wants.
Well, paper. Good morning. Let's rise and say our pledge, and Aileen Johnson's going to lead us in our pledge of allegiance. Just lead us, Aileen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's
It
pause
makes
for
you
a
feel
moment
like
of
you want to
silence.
say amen.
Let's pause for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Welcome to our February meeting. We are here to accomplish the business of schools for the sake of our students. We do want to hear from our citizens, and there's time for public comment prior to action items on the agenda. We ask speakers identify themselves and their district. We ask also that your comments are limited to 3 minutes in order to provide equity to all speakers and to ensure our meeting is reasonable in length. If you have more information than can be summarized in 3 minutes, please leave behind materials for the board's review. The moderator will ask you to conclude your remarks as the time has elapsed. If you have questions during the session, you may ask for clarification from your school board member or a school administrator after the meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming. Is there a motion concerning the adoption of the agenda this evening?
I move that we adopt the agenda.
The motion from Ms. Bynum, is there a second? second Mr. Grove. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, no. So ordered. Do we have a student representative?
We do.
We do?
Yes, we do. I'm going to come up
An introduction?
with a little introduction. Well, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, we now have our new student representative-elect this month because later on it is an action item to approve the appointment of our student rep. So Macy Montgomery has gone through the application process, and we're taking a little bit of a different approach. Previously, the student rep has come to give information about what's happening at the schools, which she still will do some of that, but also she plans to look at the agenda and also provide some student input to some of the items that you'll be conducting business on. So I thought that was great. So without further ado, Macy.
Hello, guys. So I just came back from drama rehearsal, and we're doing the musical this year, A Chorus Line, and that's all about dancing. So today is our dance rehearsal, and then 3 other days of the week we work out with new teacher, Mr. Myers. And we have our wrestlers, 5 wrestlers going to states, and Johnny Beard was our first in the region. And so mini golf for the band is this Saturday. The band is going to Florida this year for their spring trip, so we're trying to raise money for that, and I will be there. And the Bland Music Contest, I know, is this Sunday. I will not be able to attend or volunteer because I'm actually visiting Duke University this weekend.
It's at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock
At 2 o'clock on Sunday.
at the
Right,
theater.
awesome. So I may be rough today because it's kind of my first day, and I'm just trying to see how it's going. So thank you for bearing with me. That's all the information I have for today.
Can I hang on just a second? One of the things that we were talking about was that many school districts, student representative actually sits with the board and is a part of any of our ongoing debates or discussions. And so that's quite a commitment.
Talked about that.
It's quite a commitment. And so before we saddle that up along with a title, consider that. Right? And,
There's other alternatives. I mean, school liaison, which sounds like what you're talking about.
Right.
Or information giver, as we've had in the past. But
I mean, we are certainly willing to entertain the idea that you would sit. We're already kind of squished up, but you could sit at our table and become a part of all of the information that we receive and the discussion that we have. It's a precedent that has not been set before. So I want you to consider that, and we'll see where it goes from here.
And if you'd like to talk to me about what it was like when I was in high school doing that, I really enjoyed it. Actually, in a weird way, but I enjoyed it. And it is a good way to learn about government and just how to be involved, and also to have students understand more about what happens at the upper levels in the people you don't usually see in the halls of school.
No pressure.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, perfect.
Yes. All right. Our this is the meeting of love. It is Valentine's Day, right? So our next item is perfect 600s and 100% recognition. So at this time, I'll ask Mrs. Karen Ellis from the high school to come to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. So it is with great honor that I get to recognize 2 students tonight. Both of these students received a perfect 600 on their fall SOL this year. Not in the same subject, but both of them just joined us. I believe they were both probably at the spring musical rehearsal, drama rehearsal. So one of them without her dancing shoes, no shoes at all. We'll start with you, Eve. I'd like to recognize Eve Vandry for a perfect 600 on her World History 2 test in December. And the other student is Donovan Zook, who received a perfect 600 on his biology SOL in December. So this is no easy task to do to receive a perfect 600. These tests are very challenging, not just multiple choice questions, but also technology enhanced items. Fill in the blank, choose all the correct answers or you don't get any credit and you don't know how many are correct. So they're very challenging, but these students have done it this time and they're very good students. Even students that don't receive a 600 perfect score, I mean, we have lots of pass advance, but for me, just passing them would be a relief because they are really challenging tests. So I'm proud of both of you. Congratulations. All right. You want mom going on to that, or me, or you're good to go? Okay, they're going to return to their drama practice. They're busy students. Tonight I also have the honor of recognizing two of our teachers who also accomplished some pretty amazing things in December. I'd like to first call up Miss Dawn Roseberry. She is a geometry teacher. She teaches other things too, but tonight we're going to recognize Ms. Roseberry. She, all of her students, 100% of her students passed their geometry SOL in December. So congratulations. And we have one other teacher who had another commitment tonight, Mr. Scott Stevens, also a math teacher. And he had a 100% pass rate for his Algebra 1 class in December. So I will be giving this to him tomorrow. Thank you very much.
February is also School Board Appreciation Month.
Yeah.
They love this. VSBA sends you really nice certificates of recognition for the work that you do. And it is a really difficult and sometimes thankless job, and we just really appreciate everything that you do. So we do have gifts here from the schools, and if the principals want to talk about any of that, you want to? Sure. About what we have for the board members.
That's where these came from?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
I'm gonna let Scott Clark
Yes,
talk with
go
us
ahead.
too, 'cause
Yes.
I know you're loving me for that.
Well, I give these out. You can.
So you wanna start with yours, or?
So we had some of our students in art class make some pictures for each of you with a message on the back. So we actually got two of each. They're owls for wisdom, which is what you guys provide for our district. And you guys are welcome to come up and choose whichever one
All
you
right,
like.
so first one gets first pick from you.
Sure.
And then from the high school, the pens that you have at your desk, I'll let Mr. Schlosser, they're a gift from his class, so I'll let him talk about those.
The manufacturing tech class are the makers of those pens, so they're more than happy to provide this to board members. So
It's great work.
I don't know
Thank
if
you
you
very
got the
much.
dark walnut, but that's my favorite.
That's mine.
And then we also have from our art class, Mrs. Rollins, she had a student, Cara Heavily, she's a senior, and she's made each of you, if we tell people, we'll just bring them over so they can see them. Beautiful artwork by Cara Heavily, and she just signed that for you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Probably their card.
She's also Mount Vista Governor.
She is also now Mr. Governor's School, and then one for Mr. Newton. Thank you for everything.
Her grandfather.
It is numbered, yes.
He's a
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now it is also it's also recognition of our clerk and deputy clerk this week. So we have a certificate of appreciation for Miss Fran Krebser, our deputy clerk, who is here filling in for for Amy Rogers, who had her grandbaby just today. Her second grandchild, Amaya, 7 pounds, 12 ounces, and beautiful. Oh, gosh, she's so cute. So yeah, we gave her the night off. Yes. All right, we also have a special guest with us tonight. that we wanted to recognize today. So Bonnie Jean, come up here with me, please. We can bring a chair if that's okay. Sit right here. You sure? You can. Sure.
Thank you.
Oh, stand up. You look great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This is my buddy Bonnie Jean, and her family loves her very much. I can tell you that. So it's the month of love, and Bonnie Jean went to school here. Long time ago, huh? Back in the 60s.
And she recognized Mrs. Johnson when we came in. She remembered that you were her teacher.
Oh, wow. So we're just so glad you're here with us, and I wanted to show you a couple of things, Bonnie Jean. This is a yearbook from the year 1965, okay? And in it, who is this beautiful woman right here?
Oh my.
Look at that hairdo back in the 60s. We have pictures of her and her classmates in her yearbook. So we wanted to give you your yearbook, both 1965 and 1966 that we recovered from the records and had some extras, so it's okay.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're so welcome. Now, I heard a story that you went through some tough times during that time in your life, and you worked really hard, and there were only a couple of you. You have 12 kids, right? Yes. Wow, that's a lot of children. I have 3. I cannot imagine that. So you had 12. There were 12 of you, and you were one of only 2, right, that actually finished the credits to receive a high school diploma.
I'm not sure. Yes.
Well,
yes.
is that right?
From Rappahannock, yes.
From Rappahannock. So we wanted to verify that. So we even have your record. Look, as a little girl, your picture here, and all of your school records. We went back and checked, and you did indeed earn all those credits. And you had to go through summer school, some of that, and you worked really hard. And we heard your father died during that time, in that summer. And then when it was time to award your diploma, apparently there was a fee associated with that, and you didn't have it, so they didn't allow you to graduate. Oh, man, that's not okay. So what we have for you, Miss Bonnie Jean, I put Jenkins on this since that was your name back then, but by the power vested in me by the Commonwealth of Virginia, we'd like to award you your official high school diploma.
Thank you so much.
And Mr. Mills, if it's okay, could we recess and have some cake and congratulate all those folks recognized?
Celebrate? Absolutely.
Celebrate a little and come back to the meeting, that'd be wonderful.
Congratulations.
These are all yours. All of these.
Now we get to go to one of the classes.
All those teachers. And these records, you can have all of these. These are all the verification things, so.
You know, they told me this is going on your permanent
You're
record.
so welcome.
Thank
Yes,
you.
that shows. She still got it.
Yeah. All right, so we're recessed to have cake. You all can come up and have some cake, and we'll take a break and come back to the not more.
I would like to thank Mr. Slosher because he made bars for the drama crew for dancing. So I would like to thank him for that. Very helpful instead of chairs.
He's a star.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Just what he needed.
All right. We're at donations, 2.9 in the agenda.
Spencer, are you gonna review those for us?
Did you have to? Thank
You guys take care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's on YouTube, by the way.
Donations received this month have been from Franklin Garcia, $50 for school lunches for students in need. B&B Service Center, $50 after prom party. Rappahannock County Lions Club, $550 for the after prom party. Rappahannock County Electric, $200 for the after prom party. The Darby Foundation, $500 for the after prom party. Country Chevrolet, $500 for the after prom party. Larry and Kathy Grove, $100 after prom party. And J.C. Roman Construction, $250 for after prom party.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes of January 9th and 16th? We have a motion, Mr. Grove, is there a second? Second. Second, Ms. Meyer. Any discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, no? So ordered. Mr. Grove, had a chance to review the bills?
I did. Everything looks in order. We're good to go.
All right, the consent agenda consists of approval of the donations, payment of the bills, attendance report, homeschool students, 4-H bus usage. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion. Mr. Rubin, is there a second?
One second for discussion.
Discussion?
Can I do that?
Yep.
One item?
Yep. Now, the personnel report,
No, that
It wouldn't
wouldn't
be
be that
until after.
No. I appreciate the fact that the homeschool report has data behind it, rather than just a bunch of names. And in that data, you can note that we've stayed consistent for the last couple, 3 years with X number of kids, or I don't know what to tell you, 44, 43, and then this year we jumped up to 63. And that bothers me a little bit, and I wonder why. And you can't do anything without data. So if you don't have data, you can't make any changes. If there's something we're doing as a school system or as a school board to affect this kind of a change, then I think we need to know that. So I'm trying to figure out a way to collect that data, to get that data. Maybe some kind of a survey or a letter to the parents that choose, and it's choice, and I understand it's a choice. But if there's something we can do to have those kids back in school, then that's where we ought to try to do that. See what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
yeah, it makes you wonder if maybe there was a recent change that would have caused an increase like that.
Well, for the 17-18 school year, it's a 20-kid jump.
50% increase.
Yeah. And, I don't know. Maybe it's 15 to 7 families moved in and they all homeschooled. I have no idea. But we don't know, and that's the key. And
20 additional children in 1 year.
Huh? Yeah, a lot.
Or one very large family.
Well, the family was just here, had 12.
And they went to school here.
And they went to school here, so there you go. So I was wondering if we could maybe, the word direct is the wrong word, but request the superintendent to
Just ask.
Huh?
We could ask.
Well, to put something together so that when somebody comes, or we can direct some data-driven kind of, maybe you have some thoughts better than I do.
Well, I would, gotta be careful on that territory because it is a parental right to
Exactly,
homeschool.
right.
We have some wonderful parents who do a wonderful job. In recent years, we've seen an increase across the region, really, in the state, with the access to virtual classrooms and accredited curriculum. It's very easy to get, and it's really not that hard to become a homeschool parent and a student, so it's really not difficult. That is no criticism of their choices to do that, but I think it would be interesting to see their perception of the public school. Not even criticize or anything, just the perception of the public school in their community. And I don't think we'd be infringing on anything that way. It just would not be a...
It's really a query for some feedback.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And it's the result of a dramatic increase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so it seems like it's good to get feedback.
Absolutely.
So if we can.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Larry.
Mhm.
Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion on the table to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. And so ordered. Superintendent. Superintendent.
The first item on the superintendent reports is the reading adoption update. We've been going through the process of evaluating the reading program led by our teacher leaders in the field. And Beth Seeley is here because Tiffany Montague had her baby as well between last meeting and this meeting. Yes, numbers, right?
Yeah.
This is great. So Beth, if you would like to take the podium, I'll bring up your presentation here and you can lead this discussion.
Actually, I think we said this might happen, right?
Yeah, we did. We talked about it.
Yeah, we did. All right. Well, hello again. It's good to be back. We've made some progress since the last time I was here. We have narrowed down to our recommendation for a program. It is Reach for Reading, which is a program written by National Geographic and uses a lot of the resources from National Geographic. Our final vote, it was the first choice of both the parents and the teachers, with 69% of the teachers selecting this as their first choice and 67% of parents selecting it as their first choice. Also, in conversations I had with administrators who were involved in the process, they did view this program favorably. And I think there's a pretty strong consensus that this is the best choice for Rappahannock. So we went through a process of evaluating to make sure that this program was going to meet all of our needs. And our representative with the company was very generous to us, since this program, we will be the first school using it in Virginia if we adopt it. And our representative, for free, did all of our SOL correlations for all of the grades, and it matches up very well and gives multiple opportunities to address each standard throughout the year. We also had evaluations by the committee members, and that was in the form of a check sheet going over different areas of the program, how well it met our expectations, in everything from meeting the standards to ease of use to technology access, and everything fell in the adequate acceptable range on average from the teacher evaluations. So I want to tell you a little bit about the program. Mrs. Johnson gave you some of the resources. I pulled together a sampling from different grades. But the way the program works, there are 8 units in each grade that are taught throughout the year, and it's 4 weeks per unit. And in the early grades, they're really pushing phonics, phonemic awareness, and fluency, which are those building blocks of reading and really learning how to read. In the upper grades, they start using more difficult texts and some that are above the student's reading level, so they learn to understand even if they're not able to read all the words. It includes writing, beginning in kindergarten and going up through 6th grade, and that's done at a developmentally appropriate level with fewer projects for the little ones, so they have a little more time to get their thoughts together and work on that. In the upper grades in 3rd through 6th, they do a writing unit every week. One of the things I'm most excited about is the leveled library that comes along with this program. The books that are used for it are nonfiction books that are written
by National Geographic, high interest with a lot of great pictures. The fiction books are authentic literature, books that you would find in the library. And for the upper grades, even include some chapter books. So there are online resources as well as print resources for the program. It includes learning stations, center work, which helps the kids to work independently, and those are all connected to the themes. And there are resources for differentiation for above and below grade level, as well as resources for English language learners, for RTI, and for special education. So, your average day is broken down into a couple components. There's a whole group component where you're teaching all the kids at once and they're all working on the same skills at the same level. For K through 2, they're using big books, which are just what it sounds like, big books that the kids can see how the book is laid out and track the text. There are also anthologies, literature anthologies for first grade and up. The vocabulary is also taught in the whole group, and that includes content vocabulary as well as academic vocabulary that'll help them prepare for SOL tests. They start teaching comprehension skills in kindergarten. It's a very balanced approach where the kids are looking at all the different areas of literacy and not just, focusing on specific areas. There are daily and weekly routines in the program so the kids will know what to expect. And in the basal text, it has supports for the children, questions to guide them in their reading, help them stop and think about what they're doing, and also uses current literature. There are, in connection with the program, blogs and articles by people who are currently in the field. So they have access to more than just, what's available now. It'll keep growing. All right, there's also small group guided reading component in grades K through 2 that includes decodable books where the students are using those phonics skills and are able to sound out the words. And they're also, they're hardcover books and ones that can be sent home that the kids can work on there. In grades 3 through 6, that includes a weekly National Geographic Explorer, which is, basically it's National Geographic magazine, but for the kids. There are leveled readers, and those are broken down into 8 different levels suggested for each week, and they're connected to the theme of the week, fiction and nonfiction. And those books, what I really like about that is because there are so many levels, we're not just grouping kids, anybody who is on grade level is this book, but we can actually look at individual reading levels and work with the kids at their level. And in the upper grades that include, I already said that, that's chapter books. Okay, sorry. I get ahead of myself sometimes. All right, there is a very strong technology component with this program. For teachers, you have all of your teacher editions online, and there is a lesson planning tool where you can edit and change the lessons, make things a little bit easier for the teachers. There are ebook versions of all of the literature anthologies and the decodable books and some of the small group leveled readers. However, not all of those due to licensing issues, since those are books that are out there in the world. There is a feature called the Comprehension Coach, which this will record the students' reading and give feedback to the students and the teachers on reading rate and fluency. And also, as they read the online text, we'll have them stop and answer a question, and so it really guides them through the process. There are videos and interactives to give background information on topics and really get the kids understanding before you go into reading the stories. And also online, there are learning stations for centers, there are games, activities for the kids that they can access at home and in school. You can print out nearly everything from online, and there are also assessments online. So for assessments, it does cover, there are weekly and unit assessments, there are benchmark assessments, placement tests, a large variety, and those tests are broken down into individual components. So there is a test on vocabulary, a test on fluency, test on comprehension with a cold read where the students haven't been introduced to the text before and they're using their skills to answer questions about it. In addition to regular tests, there are also performance tasks, which will match very well with the performance-based assessments, and rubrics for those performance tasks as well as writing. The tests are customizable. You can reorder the questions, choose which questions you want and which ones to leave out if you print from online, and a lot of different question types. There's multiple choice, there's true, false, short answer, essay, highlight in the passage, and things like that. So, in conversations with teachers and parents who evaluated the program, some of the things that we like the best about it are that it contains all the components for a balanced approach to literacy. The students are really from kindergarten on getting all of the different parts to make them full, whole readers. The literature is interesting and will motivate students, keep them engaged and wanting to read. There's an emphasis on nonfiction in this program, which matches up with the SOLs, which are more heavily nonfiction, so that gives them more practice in that area. There are a number of online components that the students can use, and that will help them to develop those 21st century skills, the computer use that is so essential to students these days. The leveled library gives opportunities to meet the students at their level, and the integration of the science and social studies curriculum is a huge benefit here. There's never enough time in the day, and this gives extra opportunities to meet those science and social studies standards. So that's about what I have. I tried to keep it as short as I could. All right, so thank you.
Any questions?
Volunteer, yes?
It just looks really, I'm thrilled with all of the things that you said about it. I think it's great, especially the adaptability and the current nature of the reading the kids will get to do. I think it's great.
Well, good. I think we've made a good choice.
And you decided on one, right? The conversation last month was we weren't
yes,
sure.
we had it narrowed down to 3. So in the final vote, this one came out on top, and it is our recommendation. The other 2 programs, if you want to learn more about those and look at those, I have that information, would be willing to share it. I just don't have it prepared with me.
But I saw also that you had parents come out and, right, so you've had some
Yes.
meetings where you've introduced the material and talked about
Yes, we had 2 sessions when parents were invited in on January 3rd and the 23rd. Yes, I actually remembered those. We did have some parents come in. They looked at the materials and talked to Tiffany and myself, and were able to ask questions and give their opinions on the programs as well.
Anything else?
Well, I guess the next question is budget.
That's in my presentation. If it's too good to be true, no.
No, I
I'm
know.
gonna say that.
They gave it to us, the whole thing.
Yeah. You don't know technical companies here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great job. Mr. Chairman, item 4.2 is the Madison agreement. I have that here tonight for approval, so we can sign that and send it off. The superintendent signed the agreement, but this is the agreement that allows us to receive supplemental basic aid from the state because of our agreement with Madison. We share services, like our visiting teacher does social, culturals there. We hold slots for different career and tech classes, back and forth, things like that. So we'd like to keep that intact so we can receive that money, please.
Are we gonna receive it this year?
Yes, that is back in the governor's budget, so because we fell back below the
That's
cap when
what I
LCI
thought.
changed.
We
Right,
came back below that. right?
it did. So this agreement, as long as.
240, 250?
Okay.
It was like,
That was the no, hold harmless. It's, I forget it exactly, 120, 121?
I think it's 250.
It's in there. It's on the, we'll get to that
Okay,
point. I'll
all right.
point it out to you.
I don't think it had a dollar amount next to that.
Okay, not here, but it will
well,
in my.
this covers the same types of things we've done for years.
Yes, and it's good until 2025, as long as the superintendents agree on the services that we exchange. So we are in agreement, Mr. Everhart and I, and we've gone through it. So we do put it forth for approval. 4.3, we've been doing a lot of work with facilities and technology. So Executive Director Robin Bolt and our building trades and facilities intern, Mr. Scott Schlosser, have a presentation for us.
Good evening, and I'm lucky enough to have an intern, Scott Slosher, who's been awesome. We work really well together, and we're able to get a lot more done. I'm going to start off with technology, though. After listening to, and I saw a little bit of the textbook adoption, we currently have a 150 MPS internet capability here that comes in on cable that was put in the 1980s. So I put out a 470 trying to get fiber. If you remember a couple years ago, we redid the whole infrastructure, and then the next step is to get fiber here. We were one of 6 districts in Virginia that does not have fiber to their schools. So as I put out this 470, Chantel and Comcast came back with bids. Yes.
You have to explain 470.
I'm sorry, 470 it's like an RFP that I have to do for E-rate to get our discount. So it's a bid process through E-rate. Chantel and Comcast came back. Comcast wanted to us to pay $36,000 to bring the fiber in, and then pay, I think it was $2,400 a month for 500 megabytes. Chantel came back with they will install the fiber with $3,900, but with the capability to split with the library, which brings the price down. So I went to the library. David and I talked. I met with their board, and they think is a great idea. So they put out their 470 so that we can make this happen. So I broke it down by the numbers. So our cost will be $1,750 with the 70% E-rate discount. We're down to $525 a month for 500 megabytes with fiber. They also did a proposal to provide our trunk for our voice-over IP phones at a savings of $192.86 a month. So our total cost for our trunk provider and the high-speed internet with fiber is $1,060. We are currently paying $1,224.78. So I really squeezed the guy, and he really worked with us because the library was going to do it with us because they're trying to get business just like anything. If they can get the school and the library on a commitment, then it justifies them coming into the county.
Great.
So I'm pretty happy about that.
So are we.
We are.
It's gonna be.
And after seeing what we're going to need for technology, for the blogs and the online videos, I think it's just in time. Because I think everyone agreed what we have now in Comcast it's not dependable. We have constant interruptions. It's just not dependable. And I was amazed they even came back with a fiber proposal because I've been trying for the last 2 years to get them to bring fiber in. So once they saw that Chantel was going to do it, then they jumped on board. So, the next slide is the Rappahannock League for Environmental Protection. They, I'm sure you're aware, are doing the lighting in Rappahannock to reduce our light pollution. So, I reached out to them and said, maybe we could help, what we could do to help our community out. And they've gotten grants and are offering to replace all our lights with LED lights. And we would keep our poles, but they would replace all the fixtures. The only caveat to it is that we pay for it and they reimburse us, which means we need 3 bids. I'm in the bid process now, but I have a firm commitment from them to go ahead and do that, which I think is a win-win for everyone.
You go put the down lights on it.
Right, and they're gonna do that, and they're also going to, the lights, at nighttime, our security lights around the building will go down to 30% unless there's movement, and they come right back up to 100%. And they'll do the same thing with the parking lots, for when they're on, if there's movement, they stay at 100%. So that should be significant savings on our electric bill. We met with a gentleman, and his name escapes me now, who works out in Northern Virginia. What's his name? John, I don't know his last name. Yes. But he came out and we walked the grounds, and he's come up with a plan to what lights would be most effective for us. So that's the good news, guys. Now,
We get reimbursed. We get reimbursed, right? We just have to pay for
we
it.
pay for it and then they reimburse us.
That's a firm reimbursement, it's not gonna be like the stadium lights, right?
I said we're gonna do an agreement. We're gonna do a written agreement. I guess it would be a memorandum of understanding, something. So yes. I will not move forward unless I have that in writing. So Honeywell has been in the district since December, and this is the best compliment I can get when our custodians, Bobby and Jeff, say that the guy really knows what he's doing. I mean, that's a major compliment from those guys, so I'm pretty happy with their service. They've been quick to respond. They've done a thorough inventory of what we have and what's not working. And so the next two slides are not happy slides. These are repairs that need to be done. I know, I was like, oh. So these are things that are currently not working and need to be done. Now, can you hit the next slide, please? I'm not going to list it all, but the air handler for this area has not worked since I've been here. And they still need to do a little more work, but they got the fresh air working. It was just a control thing. So, but there's still work to be done. But I mean, that's big, because fresh air is how HVAC works. And so I can see things happening, and it all comes down to money, what we can do and when we can do it. And we've tried to do it the most cost-effective way and come up with a plan. And you'll see that on the comprehensive plan. And again, it's not good news, but it could be worse, I guess. All right, now on to solar. I've met with 2 different companies just to get a comparison. So SunTribe is Devin is who you met at your conference. And then the Secure Futures is Andrew Grigsby. And so what I did was I got met with them, we walked around, we did it, what was here, what they could do. And so I've tried to break it down as a comparison. So the year 1 savings for SunTribe is $9,136. It's $20,000 for Secure Futures, but they do a $16,346 signing bonus. Year 20 savings for SunTribe, $377,541, and it's $208,000 for Secure Futures. Now, you do have the possibility of buying the equipment after a certain number of years, which would increase your savings. So the year 7 buyout for SunTribe is $556,900. The year 7 buyout for Secure Futures is $926,117. And then the year 20 buyout for SunTribe is $50,000, and it's $125,300. And then I specifically had them give me what our cost per kilowatt would be so that we could understand in this most simplest form. So we'll pay 84 cents for SunTribe and 91 cents for Secure Futures. So if we go to the next one, I just broke it down about what we would be saving. Total savings. If we buy it out at year 7 and we use it for 30 years, it's $1,888,714 compared to the $1,542,834 from Secure Futures. What, Mr. Rubin, you have a question?
No,
Okay.
just called the 1,500.
1 million. Sorry. Your 20 buyouts, which means we'll be paying them longer before you net your savings, is $1,407,950 compared to the buyout from the Secure Futures. And the big difference between the two is Sun Tribe will put them on the roof and some on the ground. So they'll take up some real estate. But they're proposing here is back behind that parking lot over here to clear out those trees and put them there. And at the elementary school, it would be by the playground, between the up playground and the lower playground on that hill, to put them there. Now, so you asked for the information, and that's what I've done. I've just brought you the information. I've learned a lot.
Is there a requirement for buyout?
There is not, but your savings do go down. You lose that savings if you don't buy out. So for 30 years, I mean, you can make $1.5 million over 30 years. I mean, you're talking $10,000 a year for, savings. And that, just tell me what direction, if you want to move on, if what you would, I just need to know. So I'm just bringing you the information, and you can.
So is the Secure Futures bid for less? It's 90 cents per kilowatt hour. Is it the same? Are they generating the same amount of power? It seems like it'd be less if it's just on the roof and not.
Well, they would be generating less power,
Yeah.
but they're going to charge us more per kilowatt.
And they're going to charge more per kilowatt.
Yes.
But there's also a $16,000 bonus, signing bonus.
For that first year, but then it goes down, and they only
But
guarantee.
you have to amortize that over.
Right,
time.
they only guarantee $2,000 a year savings. So if their equipment is not working, or if it's, they'll only guarantee $2,000 a year savings.
So your backup material is what's in here?
These are the proposals that I gave you, so that you can compare the two.
Yeah.
Just things to look at, and
Yeah, I think I better understand it better.
that's why I gave you the
Consideration.
material, brought you the information, and gave you the
No.
material.
Whatever it is, there has to be an engineer someplace that could look this stuff over for us.
Well, before we'd move forward with any of this, we'd have to have a structural engineer to verify that
Well,
our
I
buildings.
understand, I'm talking about an electrical engineer, somebody that could look this over and say, and give us some advice on what is the best, the best bang for our buck in this two scenarios that we have here. What you think?
I'm sure there'd be a fee associated with that also.
Huh?
There'd be a fee associated with that.
May very well may be. There might be somebody in the county that's willing to do it.
There are
Seriously,
people
we
who
got
know
lots
that.
of talented people in this county that are retired and would be willing to take a look at it, I would think.
Yeah, there are specific
I
people.
happen
who
to know
do
one.
it. Yeah.
But I think it would be worth our while to, even if we had to pay somebody.
Well, and as you digest all the materials, because it is a lot to understand the difference between the PPAs that they do, and then this is a self-generation and how that works differently. And there is some significant savings if you do the early buyout option, in which case it will take, the next steps would be a lot of collaboration with the Board of Supervisors and working at putting it into the capital improvement if that was the way you wanted to go. That is the way you would generate the most, is if the equipment would then be owned by us, is what, we saw in those meetings pretty clearly.
There could be some energy grants in 10 years too, you don't know.
There could be. So there's a lot to it that, but really no cost to us at all for any of this. So, but it would take some collaboration and things, but this could be a lot of stuff that we talk about at your work session after the budget's built, and as we're talking about capital improvement planning, if this is a direction we want to pursue. Right now, it's just informational only.
And both do have an education component of it also. Both of them do. But, it costs you nothing. You put it on the roof, and you do get a savings.
And you get a whole new educational component as well.
I think the only complication I saw with this land over here is I think we've already, at some point, we're gonna bump into the trail that we've
bike
already
trail.
said we would work with those people and put this trail in, and now we're with double booking real estate if we try to use it.
Yeah, we'd have
I'm
to
not sure I want
verify
anything on
before,
Yeah,
and
there's a
before,
The ground thing bothers
The
me.
ground
Yeah, I
thing
don't
bothers
like
me
that
too,
either.
because I feel like you cut down a tree.
And you know,
and
just on the
credited
we
top.
can, yeah, I agree. We
Very
could,
well.
I don't even want it over in the elementary school.
I think there's better
I think
uses
it's,
for those.
what do they call a swimming pool, an attractive nuisance?
Well, not only that, how do you protect it?
That's what I'm saying, it's attractive nuisance, yeah. Put up a big fence and barbed
How do
wire.
we
or something.
quit buying panels every other day?
and then an option is to have them come back without the land use.
If it would be interesting, it would be interesting. to
And I would be
see.
more than happy to contact them and say, this is what my board would like to see, what your numbers would be
It would help us
without the
compare
land.
apples to apples.
Yeah, if you have
Right.
apples to apples, instead of, yeah.
That's no problem.
I'd like to see what Rappahannock Electric is doing as far as competing too, and are they
Well,
going to come up
can I
with
clarify
something
something
at
really
some
quick?
time?
Because we're in a cooperative, we cannot buy the electricity from these companies. It's something called a PPA, and they've legally done it so that we're providing them for a service, is what it is. We're not buying the electricity, they're providing us a service to do this for us.
We buy it from, they sell it to Rappahannock Electric, we buy it from Rappahannock Electric, basically.
Is that what?
Never?
That's crazy.
It's generating the self-generation agreement where it's powering and it's sort of ticking back your meter based on what it's
Well, the
generating.
meter's going
so
one
it's-
way or the other.
Right.
That's
So,
exactly what's happening, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They were
you're
very
a
careful
super-
about saying you're not buying it.
You cannot buy an electric, it's against the law to buy electricity from another company in a co-op. So we are not buying electricity.
No.
It is on record, we
Say
are
that
not
one more
buying electricity. Did everybody hear that?
Right, we're selling.
Thanks for the work.
We're
on
buying
it.
services.
Thanks for the work.
Well,
on it.
again, I enjoy this because I'm learning so much as I do it.
Would it be useful to have there are local, like in Rappahannock, there are solar installers that don't do it in the same way where it would cost something to install, but it could generate, would it be useful to have a third bid that would be a local bid?
Well, sure, why not? Because the more the, but a lot of companies want you to pay for the equipment.
Exactly, and that could be
And then that's where you get into your cost. This is a way to do it without any capital outlay.
That's the only thing that made it feasible to me for us to step into it, that it had zero.
Zero.
and
It's zero
cost.
investment in,
Yeah, we don't have to take a bond issue up.
right?
Yeah.
Unless you want to buy the equipment. If not, you can just let it ride and just get what savings you can out of it.
And then the bond would pay itself off within about 10 years, if you were to do it that way.
Or the equipment expires
Well,
and
the-
go to some other new person and tell them to take these out and put another,
Well, it
set
doesn't
in for another
expire.
20 years.
They do last a long time, from what I've
I
read.
think 20 years ago, there was no such thing. There you
Yeah,
go.
I'm sure they'll be more efficient
Oh.
and better ways to do it. in 20
You're
years. So-
absolutely right. Just
so you
anything
just ride
more
it
than
out.
doing.
You don't pay for stuff like that. All right, thanks, Robin.
Sure,
That's
we're
great.
still moving,
One
we're
more
going
thing,
to
right?
capital improvement plan.
Yeah.
So, I'm so happy that Scott decided to go into an administrative program. I went and said, hey Scott, you need an internship. Hey, this is what I'm working on. So I'm gonna let Scott take over. We worked together on this, so I'm gonna let him present this part.
Well, it's been an exciting 3 or 4 weeks I've been involved with this capital improvement plan. Rob and I, we gathered a lot of data, and our next slide we'll talk a little bit about how we got that data. But we gathered a lot of data, then we kind of struggled to get our arms around all of this information that we got, like what are we going to do with it and how do we prioritize it. So we sat down and come up with a plan of 4 items, and these are kind of our guiding principles for our capital improvement plan. And first and foremost is safety. Just like when I teach across the hall over here, safety is number one. If the situation or the environment, the learning environment's not safe, then we have to do something. So safety has to be paramount. That's number one. Second item is HVAC and mechanical issues. Robin had those couple kind of happy slides up there of things we need to address, and those are important. Those of us that have been in the classroom know that as the temperature skyrockets and early fall and late spring, that the learning potential starts to drop a little bit. So HVAC is an important thing that we need. Electrical needs, and when I say electrical needs, these aren't necessarily upgrades right away, but these are repairs. Electrical things are important to repair, and electricity is one of those things we kind of take for granted. It's an invisible energy that we can't see, but we can certainly feel it when it goes wrong. So electrical needs are important as well. And then last but not least, just primary repairs related to maintenance and things like painting. Paint does a beautiful job of making things look nice. It also protects. If we let those things go too long, then we start talking about replacing things. So that's another important part of our capital improvement plan. On our next slide, it talks about how do we get this information together. We try to be as comprehensive as what we could. We felt like we had several needs within the 3 school buildings, so we tried to really get a handle on what those issues were. Rob and I, we spent a lot of time walking around with a clipboard, going through the schools, looking for things personally. Of course, 2 people, we can't see everything. There's other data out there as well. We created a survey, sent it out to teachers, staff in the buildings, and we got just a vast document of things that people were interested in seeing changed and improved and fixed and repaired. We met with the school cabinet team, that's our administrative group, and got input from them as well. Get the next slide, please. And the other direction. We consulted with other professionals as well. I've been in the building trades curriculum across the hall for 25 years, and I found it's dangerous to work by yourself. Working in a vacuum does not provide good results. There are very talented people out there, and most of the time, if you ask for advice and input, they will very willingly give it to you, and you can get some really good data, really good input based on just a few simple questions. So Robin talked a little bit about how Honeywell, the gentleman's name is Corey. He's a younger fella, and he is very, very good. Very personable, but yet he'll give you a very straight answer on what the situation is and give you a couple of recommendations. He gives you the Band-Aid fix, but also the, hey, if you're really in this for the long run, this is what you need to consider. And those are important parts as well. Rappahannock County Water and Sewer Authority, of course, deals with our water for drinking purposes and whatnot, and also the water on the other end. There are some needs that we're going to have there in a few years as those systems start to age a little bit as well, and just general maintenance and upkeep. Talk to custodians. Everybody knows the custodians are the eyes and ears. They are everywhere all the time, it seems. If you have a question about something, your custodian will be the person to help you out. They have a lot of knowledge, not to be underestimated, so they're very valuable as well. Our electrical contractor, of course, as we have questions and they are in the building and they do work for us, they see things also. So we had some consultation with that gentleman. We had previous facility plans here at the school, of course, and we went back through probably 10, 12 years of those documents and kind of combed through things that were future items then that have become now items, or we chose to put those off a little bit if we could, all depending. Again, on priorities that we just identified a little bit ago. And then a simple one, a painter, talking to someone that's experienced with paint. When do you repaint? When is the best practice for that? And then last but not least, we have a bleacher issue with a safety rail in the center. So we talked to a bleacher representative to find the best way, the most safe and economical way to do that as well. So that's where we're at with our capital improvement plan. We're always open for input and feedback to give us direction as well.
And also, Amy uploaded a rough draft in the Excel spreadsheet of things we have to do that need to be taken care of, and then how we'd like to see it pan out in the future years.
Great.
So, again, it's not pretty, but some of these things have to be done.
And some of them are very manageable also. They're not all enormous, and that's important too.
I'm assuming that the numbers in the I column are dollars?
Yes,
Yes.
and those are estimates.
That's what I mean.
Right, those are not for.
Roundabout.
Right.
Give some idea of
Just talking to people, hey, what do you think it would be to do this? And
It's good information. When we get to the end of the school year and we're trying to figure things out, this is a good list for us to have as well.
all right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the team. Lots.
All right, item 4.4, we have been implementing our action-based learning lab at the elementary school, so we wanted to give you an update on how that's going and what we hope that that's doing for our learners. So at this time, the Commit to Be Fit team, I have Holly Ann here and Mandy Grove to present their findings on how that's been going. Ladies, pull up your presentation here.
All right, we're very excited to be here this evening to share the Action-Based Learning Lab with you. First of all, our coordinator, the Commit to Be Fit coordinator, Jackie Tiedrick, could not be here with us this evening. She had a prior commitment that prohibited her from joining us tonight, but she wanted me to send her regards to you all. She was very disappointed that she couldn't be here as well. Okay, so can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, so I'm here to talk to you about our action-based learning lab, which debuted in the beginning of January in the elementary school. We have named it Brain Star, and STAR stands for Strengthening Through Action Repetition, which we'll get into as we progress through the slides. All right, so right now inactivity is really at an all-time high in our current day society, largely because of modern day technology. Starting as young as infancy, our children are just not moving as much as they have in years past. I don't think you probably find this very surprising at all. But certainly technology such as iPads, TV, computers, our children are in the house more and not engaged in large movement like they have previously. Also, infant contraptions like the neat little bucket seats you carry the kids around in really restrict them from large gross motor skills. So, moving on. There is a really strong brain-body connection. Certainly, through evolution, as we progress through the years, you know, our brains and our bodies are connected. So we really rely on, when we develop, it just works together so that the brain kind of is strengthened through these different movements. So early physical activity opportunities help to shape the brain and its function. And it's also been shown that physical activity positively impacts students' academic performance. But what I really want you to look at on the slide, I think this is so interesting. There's two comparisons here. The one on the left is after sitting for 20 minutes quietly, so you're not moving. I'm pretty sure if you looked at our brains right now, that's what they would look like. The brain on the right is after 20 minutes of walking. So you can see the areas that are really lit up just from low impact, non-intense movement in only 20 minutes. We're not talking about a long, lengthy amount of time. All right, so let's really dive into the action-based learning lab. The lab is a series of stations and progressions. It's 10 stations, and each station focuses on one of our 10 key movement foundation blocks. It's really designed to prepare the brain for input and processing, and the students typically stay in each station about 2 to 3 minutes before rotating to the next station. And that is with a prompt from the teacher. So it's very organized, it's very structured, and it's very purposeful. The movements that are selected are done specifically to help with those key movements that perhaps the kids have been missing out on. Okay, so 2 functions of the lab. The lab, first of all, helps to fill those developmental movement gaps to really help create more pathways in the brain for learning. But also, in addition to just going through all the movements, it's also used to integrate curriculum with the movement to really help anchor that information. Studies show there's a huge connection with movement and learning, and a lot of us are kinesthetic learners. So that also is a very important aspect of our lab. Okay, so very quickly, I'm just going to run through the 10 foundations, mainly with the pictures of our wonderful students. The picture on the left is for vestibular development, and it's a spinning station where they have to stay in the hoop, spin in circles. Now we all have a dominant side, right hand, left hand, And when you go to spin, you have a tendency to kind of turn towards that dominant side. But with the students, what we're doing is after they've spun in a circle several times to their dominant side, we have them reverse. And while it may seem really simple, something like that really helps to stimulate the brain and create more pathways. Now the progression, because as the students master the movements, we then progress to a more challenging level. The second progression that they're in right now is the seated spin, where they're sitting on the seat and spinning in circles, and again, they're going both directions. All right, foundation 2, proprioception. And with this, the slide on the left, we have little wobble chairs. If you've ever sat on a stability ball, it's very similar to that. You really have to be aware of your body to keep yourself upright, engages the core. You can just wobble around in it. The benefit is they don't roll around across the room. And then the second progression is the turtle shell, which is so much fun. Even adults like that one. You can get in it and rock around and certainly kind of feel your body and really work your muscles to keep yourself upright. The goal is to not fall over. All right, so foundation 3, cross-lateralization, crossing the midline. Our first progression was snow angels. Start simply with one side and working on coordination, both arm and leg together. Move to your non-dominant side, and then you put it all together. And the second progression is the alligator crawl. And with that one, it's opposite arm, opposite leg, which gets you across the mat to keep your belly on the mat. And that's fun to demonstrate. Foundation 4, balance. The one on the left, simple tape line, walking heel toe, nice and slow. And then the second progression, they're on a slightly raised balance surface, so a little bit harder. Foundation 5, visual tracking. The goal with this station is to really strengthen the eye muscles. It really does help with reading, especially as students grow and they have to read for longer periods of time. So with the slide on the left, they take their finger, have their head completely still, and just have to trace the shape following their eyes with their finger. They follow their finger with their eyes the whole time, and then they reverse it and so forth. Nice and slow, and that really helps to engage the eye muscles. The same with the second progression, which is the balls. They have to pass from hand to hand, rolling on the floor, head completely still, and just following the ball with their eyes. Gross motor. This one's fun. Our first progression with this one was the pencil roll. They have to pretend they're pencils, feet together, body nice and straight, hand up overhead, arms glued to ears, and then roll in that manner across the mat and then back again. The second progression is bump on the log, where again they're nice and straight, feet together, but their hands are by their sides, which kind of creates speed bumps, so it's a little bit more challenging. Foundation 7, fine motor and hand-eye coordination. Our first station was the scoops, where they had to first pick up the balls with these fun little scoops. But the challenge was after they picked them up with their dominant hand, they would have to switch to non-dominant, which is a lot more challenging and really helps work the brain. The second progression is scarf juggling, which the kids have really enjoyed. Foundation 8, rhythm and beat. This one, we are still on the first progression. With this one, we do have fun, kid-appropriate music playing, and they have to really listen for the beat, and then they tap it out on the stability ball. And kids think it's great fun to tap on that stability ball. But the key really is to identify the beat and then also follow along. Foundation 9, cardio. With this particular one, we're focusing on strengthening the heart. Let's face it, the brain is really only as healthy as the body that it's in. So that is an important aspect. Our first progression was just stepping up and down, starting with the dominant leg, and then after 30 seconds, starting to your non-dominant side as your lead leg. Second progression is jumping rope, imaginary jump ropes. And it is Heart Health Month, so that works along perfectly with that. And lastly, our 10th foundation is strength and endurance. Our first progression was the crab walk, where they had to go both directions, forward and backwards. And then they have now progressed to a plank, which a 2-minute plank is challenging at times, but certainly they can take breaks in between. So those are really the 10 key foundations that we focus on in the lab. And another aspect of it that we really like to incorporate is, of course, curriculum. We take the curriculum that teachers are currently using in their classrooms and integrate, whether it's flashcards or study guides, into some basic movements. The movement really anchors concepts, increases information retention, and it aids in cognition. The lab is really ideal for preparing for a test, for example, when the students have been introduced to the material, but they really just kind of need to repeat it to really anchor that information. So, if I could get you to go back just for a second, sorry. So in our slide, you'll see Jackie T. our coordinators in there. The slide on the left, we have a child that has to jump in a hopscotch manner to the correct answer to a question that was given to him. The photo on the top right, we have the students again jumping to the correct answer, which they would indicate by which hoop they jumped to. And then the bottom slide on the right is an example of kids sitting in chairs but pedaling while reviewing flashcards. All right, so action-based learning lab in the classroom. We do evaluate the students very easily, very discreetly, and simply we just mark if they've mastered a specific movement or if they need additional work on it. And then what we do is after we've done assessments, we take a look at that, provide the teachers with individual feedback for the classroom. Just generalized, we might say, we recommend that you focus on balance, for example, with your classes. The brain breaks, brain energizers, are usually like short 5-minute breaks that a teacher could do just to kind of get the kids to refocus. And what we've done is we've taken a lot of brain breaks and listed them on an online database that's listed by foundation. So if I say, Miss Seeley, we really need to work on balance, she could then go to our website, click balance, see the ones that are appropriate for her grade level, and even print it off because they're all PDF format, so it's pretty easy. We're also offering upcoming professional development for staff, both elementary and high school, to just talk about incorporating more movement into the classrooms as well. So some of our student feedback. We've heard the ABL is my new favorite classroom. ABL is awesome, and this makes me want to come to school. And Mandy has one other comment.
We've heard a lot of positive feedback. One of the teachers even said, my students count down until it's their day in the ABL. Even on our Facebook page where we've shared some of these awesome photos, you know, we had one mom, you know, this is all my child was talking about at dinner, and it's been a great experience. So, yeah, all around.
And we have one final slide. School board member Ms. Rachel Bynum has enjoyed the ABL as well. That's a great picture.
Better chairs for these meetings.
Now, Commit to Be Fit is funded by the PATH Foundation. It's our grant for community wellness, and this was the classroom component. And it was so funny because we had a observation by our senior project director in the lab, and it was great. And she was so impressed by these ladies and how they evaluate the students without the students even knowing. This isn't about what you're doing right or wrong. It's just movement and increasing the movement. But we were walking down the hallway, and a kindergarten class was walking by, and one of the students said, "Man, I wish it was our day in the ABL." Didn't know who this one was. I'm like, "Here's your $5, buddy." I did not play that. It was so perfect.
So how often does the class get to go?
That is an excellent question. We are now into a regular rotation. And that is grades pre-K through 5th grade. And then we also have open slots available in the afternoons and daily where the teachers can sign up for 6th grade and 7th grade to come in and have the children experience the lab as well.
So the rotation is what?
It's a
Once
6-day
week?
rotation.
Huh?
6 days, every 6 days.
Every 6 days.
Mhm.
Does the Head Start get involved with that at all?
The Head Start is part of that as well.
Great.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I didn't think, I was concerned that they might not be allowed to do that
In our 6th and 7th, how often have they used?
by their rules, not by ours.
We are consistently booking the afternoon appointments. Now, it's not limited just to 6th and 7th. It's also open to anyone that wants to bring in their classroom for test prep, for example. So we have seen a lot of that as well. But we have had multiple classes in 6th and 7th, but I don't have an exact number off the top of my head. But yeah, very good question. So yeah, we're very thrilled with it, and we also have a little something to present to you as our we're grateful for your support, your ongoing support, and everything that you've done for the schools as well as Commit to Be Fit. So.
Make us do 10 push-ups.
Everybody get.
Only 10 burpees. That's it.
This is a relaxation bag.
Up and down.
We really do appreciate your support from the beginning of our program.
You up and down. You want a burpee voice, I wouldn't be laughing.
You know what? You guys are the ones should get something. I mean,
Yeah, we
you're the ones that get,
I know.
if anybody's getting to say anything good about Rappahannock.
Thank you.
Well, we're grateful for all that you do.
And this will help you de-stress.
Relax.
Oh, yeah. Not yet.
Beach tea. Beach tea.
Hot air phone?
I need to buy one of those.
Actually, I was thinking about it.
I don't have to. Right.
The next item on the agenda is talking about the Rural Coalition, and I have talked to you a little bit about this. Superintendents in Virginia from rural counties have gotten together to provide a voice because our small rural school divisions are facing declining student enrollments across the board. We're competing for high-quality teachers with inadequate facilities and pressure from a lot of unfunded mandates, and our local composite index formula does not help us at all. And across the board, but particularly in Rappahannock, we're a unique county in our makeup and how our demographics look from the outside and then what they truly are on the inside. So, but that's not completely unique. We have, I think, 80 divisions now that are joining on as small or rural and coming together to advocate policy and to just speak out against some of these unfunded mandates in particular. We know local composite index is an uphill battle because it does fund so many other districts in positive ways. It can be a very positive formula. However, our big agenda item right now is to go after a specific at-risk add-on that would come in the form of state funding to small rural divisions. Everybody would get a little bit of the add-on. But in particular rural divisions for being at risk for different reasons. So it would give additional money for those divisions. Instead of taking away from LCI, we know that's been a tough battle and probably not looking to win it, but have an infograph there just to show kind of what rural divisions are facing. And it's an unfair funding formula altogether. It's unfair to the county, it's unfair to schools, but it's the nature of the beast. So. I have a resolution that the coalition has asked all school districts in to provide to their board and just in support of the initiative, and hopefully we can, I don't know, make something happen. Any questions about that?
Is this coalition the one that would speak out and support? So you had mentioned that if our accreditation was based on attendance,
yes,
that we've had so much sickness run through our school division that technically, based on this year's data, if this year's data was taken alone, which it's not, but if it was, we wouldn't meet accreditation standard because of sickness, right? And this coalition has the...
Because of absenteeism.
Because of absenteeism, right?
Yeah.
Because
So
of it.
this coalition is the one that could speak to something like that.
Yes.
It affects small districts.
It does, and Mark Johnston is the Shenandoah superintendent. He's our rep, so I've already put that out too, as well as we're all struggling with that because just recently, Virginia Department of Ed put out a mock report of last year's data, if it was on the new system of accreditation and what you would score. Because it's now the new system is 7 different indicators that you have to meet. Attendance is one indicator, but if you go in the red or level 3 on any of those indicators, you're automatically accredited with conditions. And that looks awful when you've been accredited so long, and our scores actually went up. So we actually performed and outperformed our peers and did really, really well, yet we would lose our accreditation status because of our small numbers and
But
how
that's
these
based on a
students-
percentage though, right?
Yeah.
So numbers don't, numbers,
You would think,
it's
but
it's
they do-
apples and apples
Mm.
when you're dealing with percentages.
It's not, I mean, we've seen this before, right? We have one student that doesn't graduate. It's a dramatic difference from us and another school district that
If it's
has.
only one, but the same percentage didn't graduate from another school district, it would be the same.
Okay, so a smaller number creates a more anomalous percentage.
That might be
That's my
true.
point.
That might be true.
Right.
I'm just
And
saying
that's
that
what happens
it's
when
on
the
it.
flu comes.
Pardon?
That's what happens when you get the flu and you lose.
Well, everybody
I mean, they
gets
ought
the
to
flu.
make some
I mean,
accommodation.
if we have 10% of our student body out with the flu, and, I don't know,
So
Fauquier has 10%, they still got 10% out. It's just a bigger number.
the smaller school's going to have a more anomalous response to something like a cold sweeping through. By the way, I was talking to my granddaughter about this. She's in 6th grade. So I was trying to have a conversation with her about this very topic, that, you know, accreditation is going to be based on attendance, and if there's sickness, you know, it's going to affect this status. And she said, who makes these things? I was really surprised to hear this from her. Who makes these things up? She said, am I supposed to come to school when I'm sick? She said, if I come to school when I'm sick, more kids are going to get sick.
That's right.
And the number's going to get worse. So who thinks this is a good idea? She's asking me this question. And I said, this is what happens when people in a distant place make rules.
Right.
Well, I think it's a
don't
stupid
understand.
criteria.
Well, we all
Unless
do.
you're dealing
Yeah.
in absenteeism, which is a different ballgame
Yeah.
than sick.
Which it
Because
does.
there are districts
Right.
who are
Right, right,
suffering
right.
from chronic absenteeism through
Right.
truancy.
And that was the
That's a
impetus for
different
the
ballgame.
regulation.
If it's
Truancy.
called truancy, that's a different system
It
in my world.
is. Yeah.
So if there were a way of keeping a record, is it just really sickness, and does that change your?
Well, and that's an issue we talk about every week in cabinet meeting about incentives for attendance, and the law doesn't give us any teeth in it at all. If the parent says, I know they're sick, they can't come. And as
Oh,
soon
yeah.
as they do that, we can't do.
And rightly so.
Right,
But I mean,
it makes sense.
If the coalition or
Uh-huh.
superintendents in
Yes.
this, I mean, Paul's Church has high absenteeism this year, really high. It's been in the Washington Post, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just our.
It's
No,
not.
no,
So-
not just
so-
us.
So maybe it would be interesting to look at.
As far as accreditation for your
Accreditation.
schools, we're not sure it's very fair,
Yeah.
because it's not
Yeah.
an
Well, it's not
indicator
fair.
at all to the
It's not fair.
The
performance.
state
As-
needs to
which is
Any
what
school,
rewrite.
you're
The
right.
state needs to rewrite and say when there's
Where's,
sickness and illness going around like this year, that they make the percentage different, so that you can stay accredited. It seems
We're-
ridiculous.
where's the state school board and the superintendent on this thing, do you know?
They're hearing us. The acting state superintendent of instruction came to my regional meeting last year, and we threw a fit about this when we heard it was coming out, just because it's an unfair indicator of school success, we felt. But it's locked up in the committee and the school board of the
Is it-
state and the General Assembly on what they've passed through the Innovation Committee, so
Is it General Assembly or is it school board?
both, because they had to approve it to go to the House and the Senate, and it was approved through to move forward. So it's a policy issue at this point, so we really do need to advocate. And I did bring brochures about the Rural Coalition if anybody wants to grab them, if you're talking to a legislator anytime soon. You want to bring it up, we would appreciate that advocacy.
And we've talked to ours.
Yes, oh yes,
Thanks.
no problem. All right, now I have a budget update for you. All right, as we're getting into the development of the fiscal year 19 budget, it takes building blocks and we have to do a projection of numbers of what we're working with. Now, as Stacy and I are working on this, we look at different scenarios and things, and a lot is based on numbers that you don't really have yet. So it's a lot of guesswork involved, and you can choose to be aggressive or you can choose to be conservative. We are very compassionate about the state of the county and the unfair funding models that we have in this county too. So of course we don't want the amounts to escalate to a point where it's just unfundable. So we're looking at a different models for that. Of course, everything grounded in our vision and mission, and of course the budget's the foundation of our comprehensive plan goals. So I just wanted to put that out there, that's where we start. So our key considerations that we're looking at, definitely the governor's budget, which I presented last month, the implications for the new formula, enrollment and ADM and how that affects things, retaining, recruiting talented staff. We have an amazing staff here that we're working really hard to retain because they just do an incredible job. Our schools are very high performing. Maintaining the integrity of our effective programs, like accepting adoptions made by the committees that work so hard to evaluate our programs, and those recommendations are important. Capital improvement needs, that's a biggie in the budget because it can add up so fast, and whether or not that's something we can take on to a small extent or a larger extent in our operating budget is a question. And then new state mandates, a lot of them unfunded that we're held to the same standard as a Fairfax, Arlington, whoever. We have to meet the same reporting requirements, the same standards, all of that with a lot less support. We don't receive funding for specialists and department supervisors in every single subject in all of these areas. So we do all of that ourselves.
Can I stop you there for a minute?
Sure.
Is it okay to interrupt as we go?
Absolutely.
Okay. First of all, just to commend you on using the comprehensive plan. It's not been used before in my memory. And it's the foundation, it's the base for everything that needs to be done. And so I know you skipped over that pretty quickly, but people out there ought to really look at that slide carefully because it's important.
It's super important, and that guides everything we're doing. All of our goals are in our strategic plan, in our comprehensive plan. And a lot of us were very instrumental in putting that thing together, so
Right.
we weren't recreating the
But it hadn't been
last year,
used
so-
as a budget item.
Oh, it needs to be, yes. Are we funding those
Okay.
that we say we're funding? Thank you. So the governor's budget, real quick, just a recap. Last month, talked about the local composite index increasing from 0.7398 to 0.7672, which is a loss of about $63,000, $63,776. So that shows that, just because the LCI went up. But then it had that provision in there that I was really concerned about. Whenever you see legislature put in a hold harmless clause, that means we know we hurt you really bad, so this first year, here's some money to offset it and let you plan for the loss of it. So that funding of $161,000 will go away in fiscal year 20, which is important to know. That's a lot. We regained our supplemental basic aid. We did not get that last year because of the cap, the 1% cap that you could receive in your regular basic aid state funding. So now that we've dropped under the cap because of the LCI adjustment, now we regain it. So it's important to keep the Madison agreement intact in case it fluctuates like that each biennium. Enrollment and ADM look back. Now I get caught a lot by different stakeholders about this. How many kids are in your school? How many kids? And they're like, why is this such a squirrely number for superintendents to talk about? Well, because it is. Because the number of students in your general ed classroom are the ones that you get funded on based on your average daily attendance over your enrollment, which is your ADM number, which you can see here, the trend on that, it has come down. Our ADM has gone down quite a bit. But if you look at the K-12, and this information is all on our state record collections on the students who we are responsible for in some way or another to have a school record here, K-12, 928 last year. Pre-K, you add pre-K in there, it's 948, and that's not even your Head Start, which we have in our facilities, and we're still providing services in some ways. So the number is squirrely because yes, the funding model is based on just those number of students in your gen ed, mainstream classrooms. However, when you talk about the K-12, that's alternative ed students. It could be homebound. It could be students with disabilities that can't come in. these different things, regional placements, outplacements, things like that, that they count in those.
I didn't realize we had a K-12 in 08. Pre-K,
K-12?
do we have pre-K in 08?
It's your preschool handicap that you have to count, yes.
Oh,
So those
okay.
are the numbers that
We
were.
didn't have a PK program.
No, we did not.
But
So that
looks
number
like we
went
did.
up, you can see 13, 14, 12, 13, when we did integrate
Right.
that was like 20 more students.
Right, okay.
Well, 18. When VPI came in, and we're no longer VPI because we lost that funding too after the first year. So, it was a lot of fun. Current status, we did a lot of position changes when I first came on, and I was in the instructional court director before this, so we always look at positions as they come open due to attrition or when people retire, things, to see, is that position as it is now a position required, how have the needs changed, the mandate's different. Good example of this at the high school, we lost a wonderful teacher who taught earth science. However, the mandates have changed for more curriculum and career pathways, and the science requirements for the diploma went down. And when you hire a person for earth science, the science endorsements are very specialized, so you lock yourself into a whole salary, whole benefit package for about a few sections that they can teach, unless they pick up some other ones too. So that, when you're talking budget, is that the best way to go for your money? So we changed some things with that so we could offer our sports med tech and our CNA classes. So they're still sciences, but now they're career-oriented sciences. And those were through some stipends that we were able to do with staff already on. And then we did not fill an aide at the elementary, 2 central office administrators, that science teacher I talked about, and an alt-ed truancy teacher. And with that, we were able to design new positions based on current needs that we looked at. So the school resource officer, due to safety, our safety audit and safety plans, crisis management team said it was required. We need the presence at both schools. So now we do have that full-time at both schools while the kids are here. Instructional
We're paying for one.
We pay for one, they pay for one. So it's a cost collaborative. Instructional resource technology teacher and division director of testing. Robin Ball took over facilities and is very busy with that. But we also needed a teacher to really concentrate on instructional technology integration in the classrooms. It's such a need right now, and a lot of schools do receive SOQ funding for ITRTs. We don't, but we need them just like everybody else. So our person wears a number of hats, and she's been incredible since we've made that change, and the teachers are just loving having that access. When you have too many hats, you can't wear them all at once and do it very well. So this is a great change. Our sports med tech teacher, it doesn't make sense to hire again for just a few sections. So that is also our athletic trainer that was on board through that agreement through Valley Health. Now it's morphed into a position that's a part-time teacher and part-time athletic trainer.
Valley Health also contributes to that, don't
They did, and
They
now
don't anymore?
it's different now, yeah. So that is now our position for the teacher and trainer. But that's how it started, how we got the
Yeah,
athletic
that's what I
trainer,
didn't
proved
know.
its need, and the athletic programs have been benefited greatly for
Sure.
that. But again, funding a full-time athletic trainer doesn't make a lot of sense for our numbers, never really has. But if that person is teaching your sports med tech and getting kids trained and certified, then it makes a lot of sense with the profile of the graduate mandates that we have to meet. Planning factors, staffing tools. We did a staffing analysis at both schools. That's your biggest expense in the budget, is your instruction line. So really looking at where we are with our local criteria based on ratios, student-teacher ratios and things. So we ran those. In our gen ed elementary, we were up a quarter of a person, but don't worry, I'm not going to lop anybody's arm off. That doesn't work. It shows we're pretty close to where we need to be, so that's pretty good. Although one of our recommendations from doing the reading program evaluation is to get those class sizes down and protect the numbers of teachers you have in K2. Because that's where the foundation for the reading takes place, and when a cohort comes up of students that's larger than the last and you're constantly moving teachers around, you can't offer the viable guaranteed curriculum you need to secure those foundations. So we are looking to solidify those positions.
Where does the column criteria come from? Is it Is that a state criteria?
The state has criteria, and then school boards and the administration create local criteria based on different needs like special ed students, free and reduced lunch population, all of those. So it is a local number. State has basic SOQ that they use to fund.
What did you use?
I use both, a blend of both. Like pre-K
Pre-K
says,
is 20.
our local criteria is 20 since it changed from VPI, because
Right.
VPI was 18. We went up. We want to get more kids in the program there. Because that was access to that, but their criteria is 16. We'd like to get the numbers to 16 K to 2, so we can do the RTI model the way it's designed to and level the reading. That's where that is. Then high school is interesting because that formula, that's where we get a lot of flack sometimes, but because of our numbers, they're small, so you tend to have classes that are smaller. But the folly in just tracking regular students to student-teacher ratio in a high school isn't right, because you can't extrapolate that number based on the number of teaching periods and student periods because they don't match up exactly. So the formula that we use for that, I'll skip over just for a staffing note, is your total students times their student periods divided by the criteria, which is the state criteria of 21, that we use, because there's some are 24, but then there's some safety concerns with classes that go as low as 16 because of, shop, culinary, things like that. There's certain classes. Then you add in your special ed divided by that criteria, and then teacher periods. So for instance, our teacher periods are 6 at the high school over the course of the year, and the student periods are 8. So you don't get an exact number. So this, I wish I was smart enough to think of that on my own. That came from Loudon and Arlington blend together for us. I knew somebody had to have figured that out because it wasn't right. So when you run those numbers, we're actually down 0.69 general ed teaching staff at the high school. That's what that looks like. Let's see. And this is the summary of that with your teaching staff. When you consider total staff, I couldn't fit everything on the slide, but it is in the handout as well, and as attachments on board docs. When you add in all the total staff, support staff, and all of that, we're actually down 1.23 FTE, which is your full-time equivalent of a person, and then your high school is down 0.69. So we'll be taking that into consideration when we build it. Doesn't mean we will, it depends on some numbers, but that's something to consider, and it needs to be looked at analytically. Central office staffing, this is the difference between 16, 17, 17, 18. A lot of us wearing a lot of different hats. We had 13 staff, administrative and otherwise, at the central office. Now we have 9.25 this year. And they're managing very well. I'm very impressed. They're very, very, very busy people. So the cost projections we have, this is just for consideration as we're saying, we do believe the staff needs an increase. All of my colleagues across the region are working to put in at least a cost of living adjustment, your COLA, at least that. Some are going as high as 3 to 6% increases in benefits and compensation. So that's to consider when you're trying to stay competitive. These are the costs after you realize the savings that I talked about in our positions. So a step right now, next year for the staff would cost about $94,225. Step plus 1, the $108,000, and then step plus 2, $119,000. We just projected an insurance rate at 15%. We don't know what that is yet, but that if it were to come in at 15% at our current models that we have, it would be $260,000. That's just to keep in, that's what we would be looking for if we make it happen. So we always look at teacher salary benchmarks to the median across the region to see how we're doing. We're ranked by, according to the VEA, December 2017 salary study is 58th in the county for salary. But we do make up for that in our fringe benefits package. We feel like we do a good job of securing our health insurance, giving employees a lot of different options, and also providing subsidies total for single subscriber, and then different subsidy levels for spouse plus one or family. So
from a recruitment point of view, would it not make sense to create a chart that shows like total compensation compared to bulk years, total compensation compared to Clark. I mean, if you took Rappahannock's, and the 5 year is a critical year. That's when people either stay or go.
Yep, that's true.
You took Rappahannock's 43,571, and we're the only system that I know of that does a full compensation for health insurance for an individual. So that's about $675 a month, $665 a month, and that comes to about $8,000 a year. So you add $8,000 to that thing that they don't have to pay anything.
Right.
Okay. But if you took Fauquier, and let's say that they provide $600 a month, but the people have to pay back $75 a month, then there's a net of only 5.25. You add that on, and we're ahead of it.
Right.
And we need to show that someplace.
I think historically you've shared that type of information with them.
Well, we ought to show it to the public. I really, truly believe that people need to know that we are compensating our teachers appropriately compared to the area.
It's a good selling point for us, and our benefits is a huge selling point for the teachers who come on staff, especially those who are,
Well, now they've got scales. They got a master scale, and you got a doctor scale, and it's a very competitive scales or very competitive salary if you include the health insurance. The tuition assistance is another thing we offer that some systems don't offer.
I know we make that known to people that when we're trying to recruit, but this question, we don't broadcast that.
The perception is, yeah, we could broadcast it to the public rather than just, that's what you're saying.
Well, I'm saying that that's how you get more people wanting to come here.
Because some people might think, oh, we can't,
I
couldn't
can't
afford to
I can't
teach
afford
at
to,
Rappahannock
for
because-
43.5. I can't work here.
We do that when we do recruitment, correct?
Yeah, but we don't do it when we have openings on the internet or openings. We don't show that.
that would be good on our HR side too. But with the applications, compensation packages, a lot of it is in our budget, but that's a lot to sift through to have it on.
Oh,
one
in the budget, it's
Yeah.
one big number. You have
Yeah.
to divide it by how
Yeah.
many
No, I agree with
full-time
you.
equivalencies you have.
Interesting thing this year too is we know our neighbors are already planning.
Well, Fauquier's already gone 3%.
Well, they
Already
haven't got
done.
their budget approved yet, but that's what they're planning.
So that's true. So that's all consideration when we take into the total package. If you make a cut somewhere, are you offsetting it in fringe benefits? Do you have a total compensation gain? I remember 1 year, because of the offset in VRS plus the insurance rate, we all looked like we got an 8% compensation boost, but we were making a lot less money in our checks. So that can happen too. So looking at that whole picture for the employee and for the division is really important. And then talking to staff about those choices that we can make. And there's options available sometimes. So those are what we're looking at. Capital improvement plan. This one is a difficult one because it does cost so much. I mean, considering everything that they went through, and this was just a baseline to give us something to consider. Of course, it's not set in stone, but $216,950 in needs for next year if we were to prioritize it that way. But you take out HVAC, $59,000. So. Considering what is it appropriate to take into your operating budget, would it be worthwhile to consider this a county issue and really advocate for adding that into the county capital improvement plan, working together on that? There is a capital improvement plan line in the county schools, in the county budget that we could probably access through that, managed by the county with our planning together. So there's options there. It would take up a huge chunk of your operating budget to do that, so that's a consideration too. But of course, you want to do some of that maintenance in your operating budget. We do have a budget for that, so we'll be looking at those lines too.
We need a maintenance line somewhere now.
We do.
Yeah.
We have maintenance.
But I'm a believer that the CIP needs to be a separate animal out there that the county needs to fund in a separate way.
So there's a line item in the county budget, it's just zero.
It's zero. And it needs to have some dedicated funding for it that can grow over a period of time. That one you don't have to turn back.
Exactly.
That stays there. So if there's 50,000 in there and we only use 20, there's still 30 in there the next year.
Right.
And you can add 50 and then you have 80. You know, that kind of, if
And
you
it's a great
plan
way to
10 years,
invest end of year money when you have some left over.
you can put it back in there.
Back and invest it into your facilities later, which is a really smart way to go. But to map that out, we needed a long-range plan. We put out 5 years about with approximate costs. If we were to move forward, of course, this would be a lot more. I can envision a county committee looking at this with the Board of Supervisors and Mr. Gary Curry too, to look through this and make sure we're planning long-term, because it's a county issue too. It's county
Sure.
buildings. So.
The school's gonna be the emergency
Emergency
center.
fallout.
It is, where the shelters.
There's gotta be some cost to that.
Right, so we're making everybody aware, not necessarily putting it in as an actual figure into our budget, but putting it out, be aware of our needs and what that they may potentially cost. So. Reading program adoption, reach for reading. You know, when things look so great, they're too good to be true. They cost money, of course they do. It came in really astronomically high at first quote. We've been doing a lot of negotiating from our end, and we were able to get them down. Total K-6 package with all the training, all the materials for $59,915, which is incredible.
That's
for an adoption.
K-6?
K through 6. Our last adoption was K to 4, and it cost us about $110. So that's an incredible price. The teachers love it, parents love it, administrators love it. So we really do believe we need to go with it, and especially with the quote we got. Now we are a year ahead.
It would make no sense to do this over a 2-year period.
No, not really. That's why you get it, because we started early in case we had to do that, anticipating a really large number. Now that it came into this, we could look at end of year or just building in 59 toward our adoption. We have 20,000 at both schools for our textbook already. So looking at those lines and adapting to what we can do.
Building in $19,000 somewhere.
So, you know, we look at that, but then there's other needs that the schools have too, that they're consumables and they buy books, and, you know, those lines do fund other things. So taking that into consideration too.
And
So scenario.
Are we going to keep what we have for 7, 8? Is that the idea? Or for grade 7? From a
Well, we're
reading
doing,
perspective?
the next step, we were going to do 6 through 12, but now 6 wanted to jump on board with this too, so that's wonderful for the vertical alignment that you
Right.
get from that, which is incredible. You don't see that very often from reading curriculum. So 7 through 12 will do their, start their evaluation process too, and see, a lot of them don't use a textbook
series, yeah.
reading series, that it kind of goes away. Then it's much more authentic learning and authentic literature that you're going through in text-based. So those tend to be a lot less expensive when you're adopting that scale. So looking at those things. Scenario examples. I put this note at the bottom. This in no way implies. And Mr. Curry, I'll read that for you one more time. This in no way implies these numbers will be the actual ask of the county. It's just a baseline for development. Okay, if we were to go with a step +2, health insurance 15, all the capital improvement, what's that number? And then you go through and you really do a heavy analysis with your budget, look at your expenditures. We're going through a new program that we're really excited about to run through all of our cumbersome data about our budget and our spreadsheets. There, we know where everything is, but it makes it tough to gather it all, sort it, and make it by, make it more manageable that way. So we're going to make it easier to analyze with our new program called AlloView, and our data's in. We're working with it. We've been going through trainings, so we're really excited about that.
Should you not keep the 59 under reading adoption? On the second one?
Well, if we were to consider the textbook numbers that are already there, if we increased it by that amount, considering those in each school.
Oh, okay.
Because there's money already there.
Well, that's more.
So just kind of what we look at. We build a framework, what we're considering, see if we can find any funds within our current budget, what that would look like, any savings that we anticipate from this year to next year. And that's what we'll be building for the March 13th meeting, is actually building based on these scenarios.
We haven't gotten a firm number for health insurance, right? This is just an estimate.
Yeah, it's an estimate. Warren County, it was in the paper, they got a 20% And they have local
Increase?
choice, yes. So they are flipping out a little bit. We are really hoping and praying that Commit to Be Fit is doing its job and our rates come in a lot lower. But, 15%, we may play around with that number, 10 to 12, until we actually get a firm number. We hope to have that by the time we present the budget at the 13th meeting with you.
Do they have the same carrier as we have?
Uh-huh.
Oh, doesn't vote.
When,
They might have a lot of sick people.
when I talked to him, he told me to estimate around 15%.
Pardon me?
When I talked to the insurance, he said to estimate right around 15%.
Okay. Well, they said that last year.
Yeah.
He always errs on the side
Yeah.
of caution, so keep hope on that.
But we bug them constantly because that is the linchpin in a lot of this is your compensation. Then you have to make choices that affect a lot of people if it comes in, just too astronomical. So we're hoping that we can get it lower, hopefully. We don't think, looking at our claims, it'll be too bad because of what we've had locally, but you never really know how they view it. So we'll see how that goes. So those are the frameworks we're looking at. So I wanted to present you with those numbers just to say it's not so easy when you say, okay, everyone gets a 2% raise and it's all of these considerations that go into it, which we do plan to build for our March 13th, which will be the superintendent's budget to you. But you get an idea of what we're thinking as far as we do believe that the staff needs a raise, and we do believe that we need to maintain our compensation package as it stands and provide the reading program. Those are the biggies that are in there.
Appreciate you putting the numbers together.
May not get a buzz. Which
We'll
would be fine.
Need a bus too. We're planning for that. We may have a plan.
Bus down the road.
Okay.
Thank you very much. All right, everyone's represented?
Oh, yes, I am. I went to my first Headwaters board meeting on January 15th. And yeah, Shannon outlined the school news and our fiscal outlook and the budget priorities for this coming year. And they were very welcoming. I also introduced myself, and I'm hopeful for a strong partnership in support of all the students at the school, the whole school. And the interesting part to me was Ann Simon gave 2 reports, one about starfish mentoring. That stands at 12 pairs of mentor-mentee. And she said that the limiting factor for that is that she's having trouble finding new mentors. So she put out if anybody here knows anybody who would be a good candidate for mentorship, there are definitely students in our school who could benefit from mentorship. So that is the problem that she expresses. It's an ongoing commitment, and so people don't feel like they have the time, but it's also very rewarding. I have her home phone number if anybody's interested in doing that, but you can also contact Headwaters.
You talk to thousands of people.
Yeah, I know, thousands of people. I don't know if I should put her phone number out. but yeah, and that she also is working on piloting a new program called Heading On. For this spring, she would visit one senior in English class 4 times. And she's a life coach. She is a trained life coach and would sort of tailor a program to some of those kids. And potentially that could lead to, after you graduate, sort of entering adulthood and having a sort of support network of peers. That's an interesting program that they're piloting. The Taste of Rappahannock will be at September 8th at Cliff Miller's Barn in Sperryville at Mount Vernon. So mark your calendars. And then one of the points that Kevin Brandreth made is he's working on a rubric for the educational enrichment grants so that teachers can understand what projects they're looking to fund. Those were the basic points, but it was a good meeting.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks. MVGS?
Shannon and I attended a retreat on the 19th of January. Very interesting. Lots of stakeholders and lots of great ideas. They haven't put all of that together into a package yet, so there's nothing to report on. But we're talking about 5 years down the road, just doing the planning for anywhere from 3 to 5 to 7 years down the road number of students, number of activities. One of the things I did here, I think, is that we're going to stop at grade 10. We're not going to go to grade 9, I don't think. But and I think that's probably a good decision from my perspective. It's a good decision not to have 9th graders there. We do meet again this Thursday, and so we'll know.
Thanks. We had a couple of, there was some discussion, so moving on to 6.1, there was some discussion last time about the history of the school's impact on the total budget. So that's what this is, and I appreciate whoever did the graphics too. This was just, these are numbers pulled from historic documents that are available to anybody in our county archive online. And it basically just shows the percent of the school budget versus the entire county budget and how it's fluctuated over the years, but that it's really in that 40% area. And you know, there have been years when it goes down, years when it's increased.
The school portion of the county funds.
School portion of the county funds. Right.
Which is really very low if you compared it to other counties. Many counties are in the 51, 52%. Yeah, many are sitting at 51, 52. Those percent.
Yeah, there are other numbers that are helpful to see at the same time, which, you know, it's good to know all of your data. If you took this, the ADM picture, for example, and you matched it on top of this, it's going to give you another set of numbers to look at that are going to say, you know, there are challenges in a small school division where when the ADM is decreasing and the budget's the same, what's changing, what's costing me more per student. And so there are answers to that are logical answers. But it's good for us to be aware of that data so we can continue to add to this type of thing to make sure we know what it is that we're managing. I think it's a good thing to see.
I think this is a great chart. This is good data.
The LCI document, is there any more comments about that one? The LCI document was put together back in 2002, and I think Ms. Johnson actually helped us find this thing. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I have it.
Yeah, appreciate that.
I've kept it since we got it.
Yeah.
But you have
And the reason to put this out there, it's in the agenda so that anybody can see it, right? And it's a good resource that kind of explains LCI. I know it's long, but it was very well done. And it helps us understand how it is that we're in the situation that we're in with our LCI being very high as far as the state's concerned. And what those three parameters are that are in that equation and why they affect us so greatly. And so and I'm not, when I say this to you, I'm not trying to say that I favor or don't favor the topic. I just want you to know this. When you see the newspaper and it says that so many more acres have been placed into scenic easement in our county,
300.
that seems like a great thing, right? And we would all say, well, that's a great thing. But know that it has an impact on these three parameters, right? At least two of them. And when that happens, the LCI goes up, right? When the LCI goes up, the local contribution has to go up because the state's giving us less. It's a very simple thing, really. So you look at revenues, land value, and average salary, and these three parameters have created this anomalous thing that we're trying to manage. And so it is what it is. And if we like it, we have to be willing to pay for it.
And the other
that's the truth.
The other major factor is that we have no tax base, no income tax base on that other factor. We have no
Source of tax.
Source of taxes. There's no commercial source of taxes in Rappahannock to offset any of this stuff like they have in Fauquier, like they have in Madison.
So the revenue parameter affects.
Right. And this is exceptionally good because it hasn't changed in 20 years.
Oh, it's the same.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was.
Yeah, this just first 3 pages. It really.
So
shed the light on it.
anyone's interested in being educated about this equation, it's a very good thing as a citizen to understand what it is that we, when we vote, what we're voting for, and understanding just so that we know there's a ripple effect to the decisions we make.
And can I read one
Yes,
statement
ma'am.
from this that really drives the point home that of what you're talking about? On the second page of this, if the Commonwealth applied the taxable value of land use property to the LCI calculation instead of the market value, then state aid provided to Rappahannock County, and this was back in 2002, would rise about $651,000, or $627 per pupil. So that.
And I remember sitting in Richmond and talking about this, and people going, no. Right? You know, so it's a great conversation. Nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I was talking about this with the former Headwaters member who was on the board at this time, saying there were creative ideas put out about like weekenders or people who were increasing the property values. And there are counties, I don't remember the name of the county, something Tidewater, where there is a tax that the county chooses to place, and weekenders are fine with paying. They tend to be more well. That's an interesting point that someone made to me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is our demographic.
Yeah, it's our demographic.
So.
That's the people who we make hay on their land.
Yep. Yep.
It's not good, it's
Love
not bad,
living
it's
here,
just.
and we love it all, but it's
So.
open.
Right. Is there any discussion? These were put out there primarily for educational purposes, so you can reach out and get them. Hopefully you can get to them. If you can't get to them, let us know. We'll make sure you can get to them.
Excellent data.
Are we good? We're moving on to public comment. Anyone from the public that would like to address the board this evening? Yes. You can reintroduce yourself for anybody that might not know you yet.
Good evening, I'm Kevin Brandreth. I'm the Executive Director of Headwaters. I'm from the Wakefield District. Just a few things I wanted to mention. First of all, I wanted to give a slight correction to Ms. Bynum's numbers. We're up now to 13. We got a new person. So if you're interested in joining as a mentor, come on and join us. You will not be the only new kid in class. So please, if it's something that you feel you'd be interested in, please join us. It would be a great opportunity. The other thing,
could you
what's that?
Just quickly say about how much time the commitment
what does it require?
Requires.
It's a great opportunity to say that.
It requires roughly about maybe 1 or 2 hours a week. You get together with your the child you're working with, your mentee as we call them, and what you do with them really kind of depends on what the child's interest is and what your interest is. Usually when they're paired, we try to pair student and adult with common interests. So it's not like you're going to be stuck doing something that you really don't like, or the kid's going to be stuck doing something. We try to pair you with a child who has a similar interest, so there's a natural bond that goes there. And it's a wonderful bond for a child to have for just another adult in their life, another adult that cares, another adult who can offer a little bit more especially for these children who may come from a single parent home or coming from a grandparent raising them or whatever. It's an opportunity for them to have another adult in their life. And it's just a wonderful opportunity. We had a chance to speak with the Clergy Association today, and that was a wonderful meeting. We had a very good response from them. So really, if you find this is something that you would be interested in, please let us know, call me, reach out to Ann, whatever. Even if you're not positive yet, call over us or call to me, call to her, and just find out more information. Maybe you'll find something that strikes your interest to be something that you like to do. We've had several who started with it with the idea that they just wanted to try it out and are still doing it, because it's just they say these children really just bond to you, and then once you do it once, it's like potato chips. Once you've had one, you can't stop. Next thing I wanted to talk about.
Healthier than beer.
That's right. Next thing I want to talk about is the summer chorus coming up. Again, Headwaters going to be offering that again this year, June 18th to June 29th. Those of you who came to the concert last year remember what a wonderful job those kids did and that the directors did with them. So if you know any child in Rappahannock County, it doesn't have to be a child who attends public school here. It could be any child who lives in Rappahannock County going into the 5th grade to the 12th grade who would be interested in singing or just trying it out. This is not a thing that you're signing on for life. Maybe something you just want to try out for 2 weeks. I'll leave brochures here. That's one reason I'm here. It's a band room. It's a good place to get kids. This is why I'm here. And the last thing, I just wanted to officially say on behalf of Headwaters how much we really have enjoyed having Ms. Bynum in our midst. Of course, Rachel has been a friend to Headwaters for years, but it's great to have you join us in this capacity, and we're really looking forward to working with you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Galen. Anyone else? All right, moving on. Approval of our student representative. We have a motion concerning the Macy, right? Macy Montgomery. We have a motion to accept
We're going
Macy.
to table that until she decides what she wants to do.
What her role it wants to be. We'll table it until next month, and in that time period, you can figure out whether you want to sit here or whether you want to keep the role similar to what you're currently doing, and we just call it the student liaison or something like that. Either way is fine with us. It's totally up to you and how much you want to own. Yeah? All right, so we'll table that until next month. Is there a motion to approve the Madison agreement?
So moved.
First, Mr. Uden, second, Mr. Grove. Is there any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. And so ordered. The Rural Coalition Resolution. Is there a motion to approve the? We have a motion, Mr. Uden. Is there a second? Second, Ms. Meyer. Is there any discussion? All in favor, let them know by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. And so ordered. Is there any new business? Our next meeting, March 13th. Now, we had said tentatively we would have a budget work session between then and now, but I don't think we're going to have more data until at least then. All right, so things will start to happen very quickly between March 13th and March 31st, or 30th, whatever the day is that we promised. So things will get firmed up. If there's anybody that has input to the budget cycle, March 13th, it's time to speak up. There will be a hearing as I think as a part of that meeting. So that meeting will start out in the auditorium for the school, I suppose. And historically, we've left there and moved back here. I'm not sure what we'll do this year, but I'm sure you can figure it out. And then a work session would happen as a result of any feedback that we get to that before we go forward. So. And is there a joint meeting plan?
Yes.
Is there an agreement for that?
That was approved, is it officially approved, Mr. Curry? Okay, so March 27th, I believe, is that date. March 27th in the high school auditorium, I believe. Just double checking. Yes, the 27th.
Board of Supervisors, school board.
Yes,
meeting,
that's the
right?
joint meeting at 7 p.m.
7 o'clock.
All right.
High school auditorium. High school.
All right. At this time, the board is going to move into closed session and have personnel discussion. When we come out, we'll be voting on the personnel report and only that, and then adjourning for the evening. We're going to be 20, 30 minutes probably, if you care to hang around. And if you don't, I can promise you there's only going to be two things happening. Approval of personnel report and adjournment.
If you want to hang around, you have to hang around in the hallway.
Have to hang in the hallway. So is there a motion to go to closed session?
There is. I move the board
Yes.
convene into closed session for the following purpose: to discuss and consider the appointment of staff for administrative, professional, coaching, and substitute positions, and discussion of superintendent evaluation pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A1.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Fusion. All in favor, aye? Opposed, no. We're going to be, we'll recess anytime we have. Thanks.